Hey, Soulpreneur family, this is Tanisha White,
and Marcy Ferry.
and you're listening to the Soulpreneur Sundays Podcast, a show for soul-led entrepreneurs and solopreneurs who want to build their own businesses,
but who don't want to go on that journey completely alone.
Join us as we share our honest and real soulpreneur stories, including the highs and the lows.
And learn about solutions and resources that we found along the way that can help you with a wide array of common soulpreneur challenges.
Welcome to our sacred space.
Welcome to Soulpreneur Sundays. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I'm Marcy Ferry.
And I am Tanisha White.
This is our first episode, a bit of an introductory episode, if you will, just so you know who we are, why we're here, what's happening. Why are you listening to us?
Yes.
We'll start a little bit with why Soulpreneur Sundays. So I'm going to kick it over to Tanisha and ask her what the term soulpreneur means to her and why she feels Soulpreneur Sundays was the right fit for this podcast name.
All right. Thank you guys for being here. We are so excited to do this podcast finally. And Soulpreneur Sundays literally started out from us just trying to be in alignment with our purpose and our passion and being creative and creating things from that space. And I feel like soulpreneur literally is the definition of it is being a creative, being someone who is using their gifts, using their abilities, using their creativity to express it through their work, right? So like you're affecting people's lives, you're affecting your own life through your gifts, through your secret sauce, as I like to call it. And so we created the Soulpreneur Sundays as a place where not only can we learn about how we can use our gifts and how we can use our secret sauce to impact the world, but also as a space for us to come together and like grow our business, grow our personal development, grow ourselves, and to talk about some things that maybe make it difficult to be a soulpreneur, and also the things that really light us up and that we really enjoy about being soulpreneurs in this space. What about you, Marcy? What do you think?
Yes to all of that. And I know that soulpreneur, that term has been used as a title of a book that I actually just purchased through Hay House. So I'm going to be reading that. But to me, when I hear that term and I've read articles about it and things like that, it's just a soul-led entrepreneur, like quite simply. And I think that's the best way to describe myself. Once I heard that term, I was like, yes, that's what I'm doing. I think it's very different from being a standard entrepreneur who, maybe it's more about profits and things like that. And it's not that way for everybody, but I've always kind of been in that place when I started doing my own business where to me, it's not about making money or trying to get further ahead than anyone else. It's about really listening to my soul calling and trying to bring that forth. And I think that's what entrepreneurs are here to do. Like we're trying to share our message, things that are really like coming through us. And we just feel very strongly called, but it can be hard and you're alone for a lot of it. And Tanisha and I have been fortunate in that we have each other and we've been talking to each other every week on Wednesdays when we have our meeting and we help each other through things. And so we thought too about Sundays. That's a sacred day. And just having that time, like as a soulpreneur, my Sundays are kind of my creative day. Like I try to focus on myself. And so I thought it would be really cool, like to have this as, something you listen to on Sundays if you're a soulpreneur and you need to fill up your cup and you just want to, maybe take a walk and listen to us, or maybe you just want to sit and drink your morning coffee and watch us, whatever, works for you. But to have that moment before you go into your week, to have this space to feel like you're seen and there's other people like you and we're here to support you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I feel like that's so representative of what a soul-led or soulpreneur is all about.
Yeah.
Like just being that place where people don't feel alone. People feel understood and seen. I love that.
Yes. And it can be a lonely path at times, especially when you're starting out by yourself. So there's no need to always feel like that. There are other people out there doing the same thing as you, even though they're not working on your business specifically. Like we all have the same things that we're moving through.
Yes.
So that's why we're here. Why Soulpreneur Sundays? And we'll just share a little bit too about each of our journeys to becoming soulpreneurs. Because for me, it's fairly recent. For Tanisha, she's had multiple businesses where she has been able to do her own thing, which is one of the reasons I was attracted to her in the beginning as well when I first met her. And I still soak up her wisdom to this day. So, Tanisha, I'm going to let you talk about your journey and your path.
Yes, so I am a serial entrepreneur. And for a long time, my entrepreneurial journey wasn't like me trying to be a businesswoman or the CEO. It was really just out of necessity, right? I grew up with a mom and a grandma, and my grandmother was an entrepreneur my entire life. I think probably her entire life too. And she showed me from a very young age, like, even if you don't have a job, there's something out there that you can do, right? And you can have a skill at literally doing anything. And so I watched her, and so that kind of just, overflowed onto me. And so as I got older, I just always was doing something. I've always just been a person to like say, okay, well, jobs are not really for me. I don't like people telling me what to do. I don't like people telling me where to be and what time I can go to lunch and all of those things. So I just quickly realized at a very young age, like, okay, this doesn't really work for me. And even though I've had multiple jobs in multiple different, you know, areas, it just didn't ever align with me. And so I was kind of more in the hustle mindset, right? I was always had some kind of thing on the side I was doing. So I've had a hair business and I had a cottage bakery that I ran from my home for 5 years. And I've done um, so many different things. Like we could literally make a whole episode on all of the businesses that I've had. But um, when I came into social media and creating content and creating like courses and master classes and all of those things, I started to be able to like speak from a different place, right? It wasn't about the hustle anymore. It was about how can I be impactful? How can I change not only my life, but like other people's lives too? And so that really changed the trajectory of my business. And it really gave me an awareness that I didn't have before when I was in that kind of hustle mentality. And so um, that's how I got here. Long story short, which I'm sure in another episode we can dive really deep into that because I think that it will really give people another perspective. So I look forward to sharing that in the future with you guys. But what about you, Marcy?
Yeah, so I definitely did the whole traditional job thing for a pretty long time. And I only recently finally went on my own. It was in May of 2021. It was a wonderful month of freedom and embracing that freedom. But I grew up in a house where my family didn't. There were no people who had their own businesses that were examples. My dad did try to start his own business in the beginning and then eventually teamed up with someone else. And he was the president and general manager and things like that at the company he was at his entire life, the same company. And then my mom always had more or less traditional jobs. She worked in retail, things like that. And so it was kind of expected because both my parents didn't go to college that, all of us were going to go, all four of us kids, and we were going to have a successful career. And they were trying to give us everything we could to stay on that trajectory. So kind of in my head, I thought that was a little bit the only option, right? Like you go, you get a job, you get a good salary, you keep climbing the ladder, you go to the best school, you get the best job. And it was a lot of pressure that I put on myself. And my dad still had some of that entrepreneurial spirit. So from time to time, when I was in my transition phases, he would kind of encourage me if I was freelancing or things like that. So that was always nice, but I always still had a lot of fear that it took me years to unpack before I could step out on my own. And Tanisha's talking about how she's had all these different, businesses. For me, it was a lot of different jobs. I started as a television news journalist. Then I went back to school for creative writing to get my master's, which then led me to working in corporate communications of all things, because that's super creative. Really interesting. So I did that for a few years at corporations. I went and was the marketing and communications director for a not-for-profit association that felt more aligned with my goals and wanting to help people. So of course, this thing started bubbling up of like, I really want more direct impact. I want to be, really more like hands-on and seeing that my work is impacting people. So that was kind of the beginning stage. And then finally I realized, oh, to do this, you really have to go out on your own. And the spirituality stuff started coming in as well. And that's not usually super accepted at many jobs. So it became something where I knew that in order to let myself be like fully who I am, I had to go out on my own. So that's what happened to me.
Yeah. And I love that it was like, I just need to be authentically me. And in this space, I can't do that. And that was something that I literally felt from the moment I had a job. So I begged and begged and begged my mom for probably 3 years in high school to let me get a job. And she was like, absolutely not. Like, finish high school, because once you start working, there's no going back. So take it, like take your time. Don't rush into it. But I was like, no, I need money. So that's kind of like where that hustle so I was like, okay, I started like doing my friend's hair. I started like doing other little things like babysitting in my neighborhood. Like I was going to get money somehow. So when I did get a job, it was like, oh, wait, you mean I have to do this forever?
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew. Like, this is gross. Like, who signs up for this?
Way too many people.
And so that, even though I had many jobs in many different genres, let's say, right? And a lot of times when I was working like 2 jobs and then doing something like on the side too. So I definitely can understand what that looks like. And
yeah,
I'm just glad we are where we are.
Me too. And that's such a good point too. I forget about that. Like always doing something on the side. I feel like that's a signal that like you kind of want to move in another direction,
Oh, that's good.
I was always doing something on the side of all these jobs.
Always.
Like I just couldn't help myself. I just needed other things. And that's usually a signal that like, what I was doing was not fulfilling me in, the way that I needed to be fulfilled. Of course, there's some people, who a traditional job works great for them, but then there's some of us that we can't really find our place there. We don't feel like we fit in. And that was definitely an experience I had where it was just like trying to be the chameleon in these places and take on all these different roles and do all these different things that people needed to prove that I was useful. And that, leads to burnout. Straight path.
Absolutely. Straight path with gasoline on fire. Literally on fire.
100%.
Burnout is, it like you said, it literally is the direct path. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You're going straight to burnout town.
Yes. And if we can at all possible avoid that by helping any of you who are listening and feeling something coming up for you that you want to make a change, that it's time to make this side hustle a real thing, we're here for you.
Yeah. And that goes right into the next thing. Like, why do we feel like this podcast was even needed? And I feel like that is the reason. Like you stated before, it's a lonely experience, especially when you don't have anyone who, in your family or your immediate circle, who's doing something like this, who wants to create things for people or wants to step out of the norm of the, like the societal norm, and you're being completely different than everyone else, it gets really lonely. And so that's part of the reason why I feel like this podcast was so needed, because you can literally just sit with us on a day, whatever day you listen to this, and say, oh my gosh, someone else understands what I'm going through. And not to mention, we'll drop some good gems in there to help you and some great strategies along the way to help you grow your business. So not only will you not feel alone, but then like we're going to give you some tips and tricks that we've been learning along the way to help you out.
Yes. And that's okay. Apologies, Tanisha. I'm going to go on my little like tangent about how amazing storytelling is. But that's like
Yeah.
what I really like hope for in this space. I feel like when we share our
Mm.
stories, like we can just feel that connection. We feel less alone. We have greater understanding if someone's story is different from ours. It gives us another perspective. And it can be very healing to share these stories, to share yours, to listen to others. And I feel like that's what we're going to be doing here. And it's what we do when we meet together. Like even just before we came on and recorded this, I was talking about I'm in a moment of having a little bit of burnout with some freelance work I'm doing. And I was sharing that with Tanisha, and she was sharing things back with me and like, being like, I totally get it. I've had that experience before. And just that is affirming, so affirming to feel like seen and heard and have that space held for you. So I really hope that by giving you these stories, these snippets from our life, that like you can also, see that and feel that in yours and gain new perspectives as well.
Yeah. And the new perspectives are so important. They're so important because we kind of get these lenses, right? We get these lenses on and we are so focused on our vision and we're so focused on our personal goals and we're so driven towards the things that we want to achieve. Sometimes that new perspective coming in gives us that inspiration or that motivation or just another viewpoint to see things just a little bit differently, which can literally be the catalyst that takes you to the next level.
Yes. It's funny. I was just thinking, I actually had someone pull a tarot card for me last night on an in bulk ritual I was on. And I got that
Mm-hmm.
card where she said, oh, I'm seeing you trying to see things from another's perspective. Like you need to be taken out of your own space and literally plopped into another in order to
Yeah.
see just a new perspective, and that, someone else in a different situation might be struggling with a similar mental thing, right? But see how they're dealing with it. See how you can learn from that. And I think, honestly, that kind of sums up what we're doing with this whole podcast as well.
It does.
So eerie, I
Absolutely.
got that card.
And yeah. And I love the fact that you brought up that you had someone pull a card for you because I feel like um, part of that soulpreneur and that soul-led experience is about really getting in alignment and starting to listen to ourselves intuitively in the process of being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And part of that, just that surrender and that allowing, right? Or allowing ourselves to get uncomfortable, allowing ourselves to see things from a new perspective, allowing just that awareness, right? So hopefully we can like do some of that here with each other and like for the audience and help like, strengthen that intuitive muscle.
Yes. Yes. That is a huge thing that I've come, into further development with in the course of the time that
Mm-hmm.
I've become, a soulpreneur going on my own. I'm, looking to the cards and looking to tools that help me tap into myself so that I can get a clear message. Because
Yes.
guess what? There's no boss who's going to be telling you what to do anymore, right? Like
Mm-mm.
we're all so used to that if we came straight from a traditional job. The boss is that inner higher self working its way through
Yeah.
you. That's the boss.
Yeah. And if we're not careful, right, it could be that inner critic that's telling us, you can't do that. Nobody's going to listen to you. Who do you think you are? You don't even know enough to tell anybody or be an expert at that, right? So we have to be careful, like what voice are we listening to?
Oh, yes. That's going to have to be a whole episode in and of itself in the future. How do
Yes.
we work with that inner critic? Because it's
Mm,
tough, but
it is.
you can figure out over time how to just even
Mhm.
recognize when it's happening. They're probably never going to go away. Let's be honest. Like they're always going to be there.
Yeah.
But just
Hmm.
figuring out how to recognize when that voice is coming through and how to pacify it a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And learn to use it as a
Yes,
tool
exactly.
versus letting it like put you in that spiral of imposter syndrome.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
All too familiar with that.
Hmm.
So that's a little bit about why we are doing this, what we, hope to be giving you, and then what you can expect is basically every week we're going to be dropping an episode. And each month we're going to try to have a theme that we cover in the 4 episodes within that month, or 5, depending on how the month shakes out, that will be able to cover different bits and pieces of that theme. So the first one is going to be about that beginning soulpreneur stage. That's where we're going to start. It makes sense, right? How do you get
Right.
started? How do you make this happen?
Yeah. And not only that, but I feel like even the people who might be in a position where they've started businesses, they might be really in the middle, like into the thick of it, right? But I feel like it would be remiss to still not go back and like touch on those fundamental things because sometimes when we're in the thick of it, when we are literally knee deep in it, we forget the things that are like the
We
basics,
forget the
right?
fundamentals.
We forget the fundamentals. Yeah.
Yeah, same wavelength.
We forget the fundamentals that got us to where we are or that are going to like help us get to the point where we start working like a well-oiled machine. And so I think starting at the beginning just makes sense. And I can't wait to see like where this takes us and how this ride goes.
Oh, yes. I'm really excited to see, even just talking right now, doing this introductory, session, if you want to call it that, with all of
Mhm.
you. I already have like 10 ideas for future episodes that we don't already have on our list. So I'm sure this is just going
Yeah.
to keep growing and going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that we are both giving two completely different perspectives so that it's not just like one person's input or opinion on how things are. It's like two different people from two different experiences. And back to that perspective that we talked about, it's like getting so many different perspectives. And I can't wait to hear when our soulpreneurs start chiming in and like giving us their perspective because I love being able to see other people's like experiences and being able to like compare and not in a comparison like who's doing better, but like where are we like collectively,
Yes.
right? How can we help each other as a collective to like level each other up?
Yes.
We're literally like giving each other that stepping to like that next thing. And I love that.
Me too. And I think we do all need to lift each other up. It can feel sometimes very comparison-y, very competitive,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're looking on Instagram and social media.
Oh,
But
goodness.
I hope we can kind of dispel that, get rid of that energy because we really need to be helping each other. We're all offering completely different perspectives. We have our own lived experiences that inform the work we do, even if we're teaching similar topics, even if we're selling similar things. We all add
Yeah.
something a little bit different. And Tanisha always says, secret sauce, right? You
Yeah.
add your own secret sauce.
It's like when you add like you could literally teach the same thing. I could come into a room and teach the exact same thing that you teach. And those people in that room are going to have two completely different experiences because your secret sauce is not my secret sauce. And that's what makes us special. And even though we teach the same thing, they're going to pick up different bits and pieces, not only from our perspective, but just from us being who we are. And that's the thing that's going to help us as entrepreneurs, as soulpreneurs, really stand out. That's what makes you really just grow, right? Not just like grow yourself, but like grow your business.
Yeah, this is going to be a beautiful journey.
It
I'm
is.
really excited.
And I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but I wanted to like circle back because I wanted everyone who's listening to this to know that Marcy is literally like the fairy godmother of storytelling. Okay. So I am expecting for us to be able to like really wow y'all with our stories here. Not only that, but like teaching y'all about finding your own story and your experience, and like then being able to articulate and deliver that message and that story to your audience
Yes.
in a way that helps you to get your message out. And I'm really, really excited not only to learn from you, Mercy, and learn how you go through your creative process, but also to like use those tips and tricks in my own business, because I love how you can take just a few words or sentences and literally turn them into a business fairy tale, literally.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's awesome. Thank you for saying. And this is why we kind of are, I think, in my opinion, the perfect host for something like this, as far as like the balance. And I think this is why we were drawn to each other and why we work together to begin with, is that I am all about in my head and the stories. I'm a Pisces. I'm dreamy. I love stories. I like, living in my little fairy tales, what have you. But Tanisha has the whole like strategy piece. She has that vision for business, that head for business that, honestly, as a Pisces and a creative, I don't necessarily have, but I try real, real hard. But Tanisha has.
It's the Virgo in me. I'm a Virgo. I cannot help myself.
She can see, like, there are times where I will be on a call with her and like I'll be working through something and she'll be like, well, just do this. And I'll be like, wait, what? How? I cannot believe I like didn't even see that. It's brilliant. And what? It's similar to having a tarot reading with you, actually. If people have had tarot readings with Tanisha, the like clarity is insanity.
Mhm.
Like, how are you in my head? How did you know that? Were you like on my shoulder while this thing was happening and like witnessing it? And then being able to like speak back to me exactly how I felt and what I needed in that moment? Like, what?
I still, every single time, no matter how many readings I have done, I still am blown away. Not by myself, but just by how spirit can like come in and how people can like channel, and how I literally have no idea what I'm talking about, but somehow, some way, like I'm literally telling you things about yourself that I would never know. And it blows my mind every time. Every time.
There is, and that I have to say one other thing about the soulpreneurs, and like that's such a good example, is like kind of like the magic in it, like when it just comes
Yes.
through. Like I feel like that for you is like doing the readings and the visioning and like understanding where someone's going, where they're headed, like how to get there in a very practical but also spiritual way. And then for me, I have these magic moments of weaving the stories together, of finding the themes. I love going from like beginning to end and being like, yes, this is the phase. This is how it goes. Like that whole flow. There's these like magical moments. So if you're someone out there who is very new to this concept of soulpreneur, you're not sure if this is something for you or what's happening to you, look for those moments of like, where does that magic start to happen for you? Like you're just in such a flow.
Yeah. That's a beautiful space. And it takes us a while to get there, but then once you get there, like you said, like it's literally where the magic lies. I think both of us are really working towards that, because both of us have been like shifting out of a lot of
Yeah.
things and shifting more into our creativity and shifting more into just allowing. And it's been really beautiful to watch, and I'm really excited.
Yeah,
So
again, it's going
excited.
to be an amazing journey. I am so excited for all of you who are on this ride with us.
Yeah,
So excited.
buckle.
Yeah, get ready. There's going to be, I'm sure, some interesting moments. We'll be pretty real, I think. Maybe a little goofy at times.
We're kind of silly and quirky at times, the both of us. But we also come from different backgrounds. And, you know, speaking for myself, there are times where I can get a little clatchet, you know? And for those of listeners who don't know what that means, it is a combination of classy but ratchet. Um, because I mean, that's just who I am authentically, right? I like to refer to myself as a little hippie and a little hood. So there will be moments of that, and I hope that you guys are ready to just embrace the both of us and to just accept us in our fullness, in our authenticity, and to really like just go on this crazy ride with us.
Yes. Just embrace all of it. Sorry in advance if we go off on tangents, but I really hope that they're tangents that are super helpful for you, because chances are,
Yeah.
if we're mulling over something and grappling with it and trying to get past it, like, you probably are too. So I think the
Yeah.
more real, honestly, that we can be and as authentic as we can be in these episodes, the better, because I think you'll all benefit from it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for sticking with us through this introductory episode. Any final closing remarks?
Subscribe to this podcast because you don't want to miss anything that's going to happen. And when you're listening to this, there's probably going to be more episodes here. So go ahead and listen to the next episode and then leave us a review. And check us out on our social media and join our communities and see where we are and like become part of our soul family,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Share your stories with us. We want to know what's happening with you, what you're moving through, what your business is. We want to know.
Yeah. We want to know everything. Like, we're both really nosy. We want to know all of it.
We do. We want to know every detail.
Mercy, what about you? Any final thoughts?
I just encourage you all to come to these, ready to learn and grow, and also be comforted. Like, know that, yeah, you might feel uncomfortable sometimes when you hear things that maybe you aren't doing and now you feel like you're behind or you feel like you should do them. Like, don't try not to get into that headspace, and more think of it as, I'm learning. Now I'm going to start slowly applying things. It's okay if we mention something in the fundamental series that you haven't done and you think that you should have already done it. Like, don't worry about that. Like, we all are moving on our own paths and journeys, and this is just meant to help you continue to build the best possible business for yourself that you can.
Yeah. And impact more people.
Yes. Get your voice out there and share your unique messages, because only you have that message, that as much as you might think someone else is saying similar things, there's only one way you can say it. Only you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. I love it.
So excited. So thank you all for tuning in. Till next time.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Soulpreneur Sundays.
We hope you learned something new and feel comforted and inspired by what you heard.
We'd love to feature your comments, questions, or stories in future episodes. So be sure to leave us a note and let us know about your business and what you'd like to hear more about.
To make sure you get notified of new episodes, subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube.
You can also follow us on Instagram at Soulpreneur Sundays Podcast.
And you can find both of us on Instagram at Tanisha White
and at The Mystical Fairy, with fairy spelled Farrey.
Join us again next Sunday for a new episode.
Thanks for listening.